Good morning, everyone. Today, as always, in each of our movies or episodes, or one can call them as one wants, we are finding again Adma's character of our world in literature, art, and fantasy literature, historical literature mainly, with the emphasis on these two literature genres in which I feel the most familiar with. And I have to tell you today, I want to tell you, I should say, about a very peculiar book. It's actually a historical book because written in the second half of the 6th century AD in Constantinople by former secretary of Emperor Justinian and also co-worker of his wife Theodora. And he was subordinate, one can say, and Justinian and Theodora were his supervisors, let's say, if we are about to use modern nomenclature. And after the death of first died Theodora in 548 AD, and in 565 AD, Justinian left this world for good. And Procopius survived them for a few more years. He was most likely born circa 500 AD and died after 565 AD. He wrote a book called, the translation of the title is Secret History, where he depicted the characteristics of his supervisors and people connected with them in a very, I would say, unexpected way, because this is very critical characteristics of especially Justinian and his wife Theodora and people who were supportive for them and closely collaborating with them. This is actually interesting because his previously written works of history that luckily survived till our days, like History of Wars, on the wars with Vandals and Ostrogoths in Italy, and also some other conflicts are accidentally mentioned in these works. This is a great chronic of the political history of of the Justinian reign in Eastern Roman Empire those days. Some people call it nowadays with modern nomenclature Byzantine Empire. And in these previous works, History of Wars, characteristic of Justinian and Theodora was not so critical, but we see that when his supervisors were dead, so the former subordinate just created different posthumous depiction of his former supervisors, which is also worth reading. Most likely this is typical presentation of disappointed courtier, so the member of the court who was, according to him, not properly awarded for his service for the masters, and he wrote the characteristics of his masters when they were not able to reach him anymore because they were dead, as he saw it truly. This is great comparison to the previous sources, to the information with the information from the previous sources this guy wrote, and it gives us more complete picture of these two main historical figures of the first half of 6th century in Western Hemisphere, one would say. The most powerful rulers of those days in the Western Hemisphere. Very interesting book, worth reading, showing us that history is not so simple. It has many shades, and it's worth to know as much as possible of them, because only complete picture is the most interesting, or the most complete if we cannot get a complete one. That's why this book should be read with History of Wars and compared. And as one proverb says, there is no smoke without fire. So some historians who have more pro-Justinian and pro-Theodora orientation claim that because Procopius was disappointed of their supervisors, so he, after their death, wrote this work to actually present bad characteristics of them to the next generations, because he wanted to take his specific intellectual vengeance on them. But I don't think so. I think there is no smoke without fire, so that's why we should read all sources preserved and also use our thinking and our knowledge about the human nature to find the true about the past events. So Secret History of Procopius is the very important book to read and enjoy. Good night, good evening to all of you. Bye.